In this video, we have the Axial SCX6, and we're going to be doing a whole host of aluminum strength upgrades to the front axle of this truck to help with overall durability. Welcome, my name is Troy. This is Roadside RC. What you'll tend to find here on the channel is crawling and bashing and drifting and racing, plus product review videos and how-tos. And today, we have a whole host of parts from TOPCAD that we are going to be using all aluminum to add strength to the front end of this Axial SCX6. We have the hubs, we have the C hubs that are out there at the end, and we have an aluminum diff case to help us hold that bearing and that ring gear all in place. I'm going to be doing all this to the front. Let's get started. With the front tires off, we can get a little bit better idea of what we're getting ourselves into here. I got all the parts out, and what we can see here, this hub that's on here, this is one of the ones that we're definitely concerned about. This truck just weighs so much, tires are so big, and once you've upgraded the servo in it like we have with that Zuske 60 kg, there's a lot of forces going through here. Getting this into aluminum not only is going to help support that bearing better than it does within the plastic, but it's going to also be a lot stronger right here in this dimension so that we're not less likely to break this, and that goes for both sides of the truck. You can also start to see a little bit how everything here is going to lay out, what that's going to look like, plus how we're going to get to and work on that front diff cover. Now you can do all of these upgrades with the axle completely on the truck as it sits right now, but what I'm going to do is actually take off the lower shock mounts, link mounts, and then the steering link over on the other side to get the axle out here in clear view, and that way you and I can both see much clearer on camera about what's going on. With the axle out, we're actually going to start with what should be one of the simplest ones here, which is there's 4 screws in the back, and then this diff cover should come off. It may interfere here. If that's the case, we're just going to take one of these 2 links off. We're going to have to anyway for the knuckles. Take that one off. We're going to inspect it, look at how the gears look while we're in there, and then put this cover right on in its place. Here we are, 4 screws out, diff cover just slid right out. And again, as always, what we're going to do is we're going to compare old versus new parts and make sure that we don't see any glaring differences that we're going to have to address. But they look great, and this is all what I'm here. This is a fairly thin plastic piece here. You can even see the holes in it there. The reason why we have this diff case here is this cover is all to hold those bearings extra tight right around that diff to make sure that there is no wiggle or warp and anything that would potentially compromise those diff gears. And while we're here, of course, like I said earlier, we're going to look at all these gears and make sure that they look great. These literally look like they're in great shape. So we're going to slide this on. Now, of course, one thing to keep in mind, we are now replacing that plastic part with a beautiful machined aluminum one. Look at that. That looks great. That means as we put our screws back in, we are going to be Loctiting them. It's not going to do us any good to have a strong piece of aluminum there holding the diff together if it loosens up on us while we're driving on the trail. We're going to now transition to this right front end here. So we have the hub, and we do have the C hub back there behind it. And so went ahead and actually already removed the hex, the screw that holds the hex on the pin, and the hex itself. 2 screws up here, and then this should all just slide off. 1 screw here, it looks like, and then we'll be able to also work this the C hub off also. Now I noticed when I pulled all this apart, this pin that goes through and holds this CVD universal drive shaft here together was actually out. I mean, probably almost 5 millimeters. It was actually loose and everything. I just lined everything back up, tapped it with a hammer, and it went all back together. But take a look at that. That might be something you need to look at on your truck. We can compare old versus new part. Make sure all the dimensions still look the same. Make sure everything looks good that way. Everything's looking pretty good here. So we're going to I'm going to go ahead and take this C-hub off so we can put all this back together all at one time. Note that you will either be reusing these bearings and taking them out and putting them back over here into these hubs, or it's a great time to go ahead and buy brand new fresh bearings for it while you're at it. Same thing now here with this C-hub. Again, just confirming all the dimensions. What does everything here look like? Everything's looking great, looking very, very similar. Looks like TOPCAD might be upside down, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Looks good, part looks good. So we are in good shape here. The only thing I'll note is that the diameter of this, call it flanged bushing that TOPCAD brings, is a slightly bigger outside diameter than the factory screws shoulder is, which means if you just use the factory screw, it could be fine, but you're going to end up with a little bit of excess slop compared to if you use the hardware that TOPCAD provides, so I am going to be using that. This whole corner is now assembled, looks really good, nice and tight, no slop in there. I'm going to come over, repeat the whole thing on this other side. Just like on the other side, here's that pin working its way out of that joint. It's not enough, I can't just push it back with my fingers, I actually need to tap it back in with a hammer. There we are, that is one good looking axle now. Full aluminum on both corners, should be much stronger. Just need to get it back in the chassis. And just like that, check it out. Everything's back installed, looking great. So this is part 3 of my whole build series on this SCX6. If you want to see what I've already done in parts 1 and 2 and what's coming up in part 4, come over here and check out the SCX6 build series that I have as a playlist, and you can see everything that's been done with this SCX6 truck since it was new. So I'm going to get to work on part 4. We will see you in that next video. So thank you and goodbye.